You settle into the hush of night, the soft cradle of your bed echoing the cradle of Earth itself. Above you, a ceiling that is not a ceiling at all, but a boundless ocean of darkness and cold flame. You sense the gentle hush between your heartbeat and the sigh of the universe, and in that hush, a story unfolds. One older than the first spark of fire you ever watched dance in the dark. You close your eyes for a moment, only to open them to the vast sprawl of stars, each a candle. Flickering across distances so large, your mind can only drift through them like a small boat on an endless sea. You remember the first time you learned their names, Orion's belt cinching the hunter's tunic tight, the shy arc of the Big Dipper scooping light from a pool of ink. Those shapes are maps, yes, but tonight they are stepping stones. Footholds to places far stranger than the myths you once read as a child under these same stars. Tonight, you learn to see deeper than the shapes. You listen instead to the quiet voices carried by each pinprick of light. You remember that every star you see has been whispering to you since before you were born. Its message a beam of photons that left home before your great-grandparents dreamed each other into existence. The light you receive now, patient, determined, is a messenger of pasts you can never visit, yet feel drawn to just the same. Your breath slows. Your heartbeat becomes the drum of a ship preparing to leave. A familiar harbor. In this harbor, you have always known the sun, your closest star, warm and faithful. But what if you lift anchor? What if you drift away from this single warmth to chase others? What if the sky is not just a ceiling, but a door? Science tells you that for as long as there have been eyes on this planet, there have been questions. Flickering behind them, the first stargazers wondered if those lights were gods, guardians, hunters, or ancestors. They drew lines between them, stories to comfort themselves in the vast dark. And yet, under the stories, another truth waited. A truth that took centuries of watching, measuring, dreaming. A truth you now inherit as you lie here. Your thoughts slipping outward, somewhere out there, hidden by distances so vast they swallow entire lifetimes, are shores unlike any you know. Other planets, exoplanets, they're called, wander around stars that shine just like yours. Some are scorched by endless day, others frozen under eternal night. But some, a precious few, hold the promise of blue skies, liquid oceans, and the gentle possibility of life breathing beneath an alien sun. You picture them now, not with your eyes, but with your mind's quiet canvas. Imagine standing on soil-tinted purple under a pale red sun, or watching twin stars rise together, turning clouds into rivers of gold. Some of these worlds may be barren stone, but some may be gardens sleeping under alien constellations, waiting for you to notice them. The search begins with light. Astronomers gather it like rain, collecting drops in giant mirrors and delicate lenses. They read its colors, decode its trembling. They notice tiny dips in a star's brightness, a planet crossing its face like a moth drifting past a lantern. A flicker, a shadow, a clue that something else orbits there, patient and unseen. You drift deeper into this slow story. You learn that the Kepler Space Telescope once stared at a patch of sky for years, eyes unblinking, catching these fleeting eclipses. It found thousands of planets, each a stone thrown into the pond of human wonder. Some orbit close, too close, hugging their star in burning embrace. Others drift far, locked in cold silence. But a handful rest in the soft band of warmth called the habitable zone, that sweet distance where liquid water could pool and ripple. Your mind sails there now, gliding on data and daydreams. You do not need a rocket tonight. You ride the photons, surfing starlight. You drift past hot Jupiters, gas giants grazing so near their suns that metal rains from their skies. You slip by rogue worlds, planets flung free of any star, drifting alone in endless night. Then you pause near a planet with clouds, blue-green, perhaps, a gentle swirl hinting at oceans or storms or something yet unnamed. You wonder, is there someone there, lying under their own stars, dreaming of you? The night deepens around you, but you feel no fear. This darkness is soft, inviting. It makes the universe larger, but your loneliness smaller. For each star you see, there may be planets, hidden in its glare. The next great discovery might come from a telescope orbiting high above you right now, or from the soft click of a distant observatory turning its ear to the sky. You picture these silent guardians, the telescopes, the antennas, the patient watchers. They are your eyes, extended outward. Machines, yes, but built by hands that carry the same restless hope that lives in your chest tonight. They watch for you while you sleep. They gather the thin, ancient light and turn it into stories, coordinates, hints of rain on another world. Somewhere inside you, a question blossoms. What if these planets are not just stones and storms? What if they breathe? What if they hold rivers winding under alien trees? What if they cradle simple life, single-celled, drifting, or something that thinks and wonders as you do now? You close your eyes and feel the hush between your heartbeat, and the sigh of the universe again. Above you, the stars go on whispering. They speak of distances so wide they bend time itself. They promise that the farther you look, the more you find, and the more you find, the deeper you dream. You remember that tonight's light began its journey long ago. What you see is not the present, but the past, painted gently across your sky. Your eyelids grow heavy, but your thoughts remain adrift. You feel the weight of your blanket like gravity, grounding you even as your mind floats light years away. The constellations lose their names, their shapes dissolve into drifting sparkles. You sense that you are not just watching, but belonging, a single thought threaded into a vast, curious tapestry. In this quiet, your breath and the stars share a rhythm. Each inhale a promise of wonder. Each exhale a soft answer you do not need to speak. Tomorrow you might learn of new worlds named and numbered, sketched by the trembling dance of light. Tomorrow the search will continue with sharper eyes, braver questions. But tonight you simply drift. You lie beneath a velvet sky, and it lies within you. The stars linger, carrying their secrets across darkness like fireflies in an endless field. And you wonder if the light has come so far to find you here. What else might be traveling your way, riding the quiet river of space, whispering of shores yet to be seen? And what winds wait to carry you farther, toward the next horizon, where starlight touches stone, and stone becomes story? You lie on your back, eyes closed, as if your eyelids are telescopes turned inward. Behind them, darkness flickers with imaginary suns. You drift into that darkness willingly, letting your thoughts become a quiet observatory perched on a lonely hill. There is no wind here, only the hum of patient waiting, the soft click of time, passing in distant orbits. Above you, in a sky you cannot see, a star burns with steady light. Around that star, a small planet circles in silence, carrying oceans, winds, perhaps life, or perhaps nothing but rock and hope. You imagine the stars, light as a heartbeat, constant and unbroken, until, For a moment, a tiny shape crosses. In front of it, just a blink, a soft wink in the stars' steady gaze. And yet, that blink is everything. Astronomers call this a transit, a brief eclipse, a shadow written in light. From Earth, you cannot touch that planet. You cannot see its mountains or taste its storms. But you can feel its passing by, watching how the star dims, just a fraction, just enough to say, I am here. You marvel at this quiet method, this patient reading of shadows. Somewhere, in the data, in the dips and rises of light, whole worlds hide. It is a puzzle of subtlety, a language of darkness and brightness that reveals secrets only to those willing to wait. You picture a great lens turning toward the heavens, catching each photon like a whisper from afar. The telescope becomes your mind, open and wide. You drift deeper into its silence, imagining how each tiny flicker must be checked, measured, doubted, checked again. 100,000 stars wink in and out each night. Somewhere among them, one wink means water, another means a rocky shore, another might mean nothing at all, a cold world with no warmth, but the star it circles. Yet, you understand how even the emptiness is precious. Each false alarm is a doorway to another question. The scientists stay up at night, eyes rimmed with blue screens and coffee steam, watching for that soft dip in the light that could mean yes, yes, there is something here. Yes, the universe grows, richer every time we notice what once slipped past unseen. You drift through this field of numbers and shadows, becoming the planet for a moment, slipping between your star and the eyes that watch. You feel how it must feel to travel this circle endlessly, loyal to a sun that gives you warmth but never asks your name. You are one of billions of these wanderers, each carrying its secrets wrapped in rock and ice and maybe atmosphere. The transit method, they call it. So gentle a word for such a profound act. A faraway sun dims ever so slightly, and here, under your blanket of sleep, you know more than you did yesterday. You feel how human minds stretched this trick of shadow into a science of possibility. One flicker, then another, then a pattern, an orbit, a size, a clue to what that planet might be. Over time, hints gather into maps, into catalogues, into dreams of visiting or sending whispers back. In your quiet observatory of thought, you wonder how many of these tiny winks have gone unnoticed for centuries. Stars have hidden their secrets in plain sight, but only now do we have eyes sharp enough, patient enough to see them. The universe has waited with infinite calm for us to notice its subtle blinks, its gentle signals that say, look closer. You feel a deep tenderness for this grand conversation. A flicker here, a data point there, whole exoplanets named and numbered, waiting for more than names. Sometimes you think about how fragile this is, how much depends on the steadiness of telescopes above the trembling air of Earth, or the patience of people willing to spend nights staring at charts and graphs instead of stars themselves. There is beauty in this sacrifice. The stargazers trade the raw sparkle of the sky for the deeper sparkle of understanding. You rest your mind in that thought, the idea that knowledge is built from what you cannot see directly, but what you sense. In the soft language of shadows, your breath is slow now, matching the slow drift of planets through the glare of their suns. You imagine that each exoplanet has its own nights and days, its own tides, its own ancient craters or blooming clouds. Maybe they have moons that watch them, two silent companions caught in the same gravitational waltz. Maybe something looks up from those distant surfaces, wondering if anything watches back. You trace these orbits with your mind's fingertip. The star, the planet, the shadow, a simple dance, repeated for eons. Light dips. A scientist notes it down. A signal crosses a wire. A whisper moves from observatory to observatory. This is how the darkness becomes less lonely. You know this now. Even the smallest wink can mean everything to someone searching for a sign that we are not alone in the deep sea of space. Above your closed eyes, the star returns to its full brightness. The transit ends. The orbit continues. Around another star, another planet prepares for its next crossing. The shadows wait for us to see them, and you wait to mind drifting, letting the idea of hidden places become soft lanterns in the night. Somewhere beyond this moment, the shadows deepen. In the next chapter, you will drift closer to the surface of one of these unseen worlds, wondering not just how we find them, but what secrets they hold once found, and whether shadows can grow into something more than just a blink in the dark dot. You drift within the cradle of darkness, weightless above worlds you cannot touch, but somehow taste. Around you, the sky hums with invisible threads, rivers of light stretched across time and distance, each strand carrying whispers of planets unseen. Tonight, you lean closer, not with your body, but with your thoughts, drawn toward winds that sweep over alien plains, swirl through canyons carved by time, and gather secrets in their invisible arms. You close your eyes, imagining you are there, standing on a rocky ridge, beneath a sky that is not your own, feeling a breath of foreign air brush your face, cool and tinged with minerals your lungs do not yet know how to name. On Earth, you breathe without thinking. Each inhale is a quiet pact with forests and oceans, the hush of leaves, the slow churn of plankton, the exhale of mountains releasing ancient gas locked in stone. Every lungful is an inheritance, a story told by a living world to a living being. But out here, where your feet never land, how do you sip the air of another world? How do you taste winds that swirl under alien suns? Science answers softly, through the language of light. You picture a telescope, wide as a house, calm as a lake at dawn. It watches a distant star as a planet passes in front of it, a tiny eclipse that leaves fingerprints behind. Starlight slips through the planet's atmosphere, if it has one, and the gases within bend that light, break it, scatter it like sunbeams through fog. Some colors are swallowed whole, some pass through, unbothered. To your eyes, these gaps and glimmers would be invisible, but to a patient lens they speak. Carbon here, methane there, water vapors swirling in ghostly veils. You float deeper into this vision. You see how astronomers spread the starlight apart, like a prism bending sunlight into a rainbow. They read that rainbow like a secret code, dark lines stitched across color, each line marking a missing piece, each piece a clue. One line whispers oxygen, another sighs carbon dioxide. In this soft language of absorption and reflection, an entire alien sky reveals itself without ever being breathed. Imagine now a pale planet wrapped in clouds of violet haze. You hover just above it, feeling its winds tug at you like curious fingers. If you could breathe here, your lungs would fill with strange flavors, perhaps ammonia, perhaps sulfur, scents that remind you of thunderstorms and the deep sea. But you do not need to taste with your tongue. You taste with your mind, with instruments more delicate than skin or sense. You taste with telescopes, spectrometers, and the quiet patience to wait for a single photon to travel light years, just two. whisper in your ear, I pass through something alive. In this way, you are never truly far. You carry within you the same tools that let you taste your own air. You exhale carbon dioxide, trees drink it in, they release oxygen, you inhale again, a cycle so simple it disappears into habit. Now, standing at the edge of a foreign sky, you recognize the same pattern written on distant winds. The starlight says, this world breathes too, though perhaps not as you do. It exhales hydrogen, holds tight to methane, locks oxygen away in rusted stones. Or maybe, just maybe, it exhales oxygen freely, as green life does here, a whisper of something more than rock and gas. You think of Titan, Saturn's moon, where a dense orange haze wraps the sky, thicker than any earthly mist. Its winds stir, seas of methane and ethane, liquid rivers that do not quench thirst but rewrite what it means to flow. If you dipped your hand into those cold, alien waves, you would feel a ghost of the air above, methane curling into the sky, caught by starlight, traced by orbiters that fly like patient hawks overhead. We do not breathe Titan's air, but we taste it, molecule by molecule, light by light. Then you drift to Mars, dusty and quiet beneath a salmon sky. Thin whispers of carbon dioxide swirl above rusty dunes, filling the shallow breath of a planet that once ran rivers and built deltas like Earth's. Here, rovers roll across ancient clay, sniffing the ground for a sigh of methane, a hint, maybe, that something once lived or still hides deep within. You imagine that first faint trace, a ghost of life or geology, caught in a metal nose and sent home through radio waves. An exhaled word, here to taste another world's air, is to lean close enough to feel its history brush your cheek. Each molecule is a storyteller, shaped by volcanoes, frozen by seasons, cracked apart by sunlight, stitched together by time. Some worlds share tales of calm oceans and drifting ice. Others roar with storms that churn skies into cauldrons of acid and lightning. Yet all of them sing the same truth. To taste their air is to know that planets, like people, change breath by breath. You remember how, on Earth, the thin blue film of atmosphere is a shield and a cradle. It wraps you in warmth, filters sunlight, holds water close. Without it, your breath would vanish into the void. And so you understand why to find air elsewhere is to find hope for life, for exploration, for kinship across the endless dark. In each molecule of hydrogen, nitrogen, or oxygen drifting around a faraway rock, there is a chance that something, somewhere, once opened a mouth, took a breath, and dreamed under stars. You wonder, too, how your own air carries secrets. The breath you just released holds atoms once inhaled by trees older than your oldest memory. Molecules that once passed through the lungs of whales, wolves, or ancient ancestors. Air is a traveler, never yours alone. So when you listen to the winds of another world through your instruments and calculations, you join a greater breathing, a conversation that stretches from your lungs to the thin skies of Mars, the dense clouds of Venus, the hydrogen storms of Jupiter. In this slow drift through starlit winds, you sense how science is not so different from breathing. It is an inhale of wonder, an exhale of questions, a quiet cycle of drawing in the unknown and releasing understanding back into the world. With each orbit, each signal, each spectrum, you sip a little more of alien air, letting it swirl through your mind, rewriting what it means to live beneath a sky. Above you, the stars remain patient. They scatter their light across your instruments. your eyes, your dreams. Within that light lies more than air, lies warmth, lies energy, lies the spark that might feed a living cell. Somewhere, in the darkness between stars, hidden in the soft language of spectra, there may be more than winds and gases. There may be a promise of fire, of warmth, of the ancient alchemy that feeds suns and hearts alike. And so you drift, feeling your own breath echo in your chest, a reminder that air is more than gas. It is life shared, secrets traded, worlds connected by invisible threads. Somewhere ahead, you sense the next question stirring like wind before dawn. What feeds the air? What burns within? What powers a star to warm a world? You exhale softly, carrying your wonder forward, ready to listen for the quiet heartbeat that fuels every breath, every flame waiting for the light that lies within the smallest atom. You drift in this question now, hovering at the edge of warmth and wonder, listening for the secret fire that lights both suns and your own dreaming breath. You lie still, drifting at the edge of wakefulness, feeling your mind slip beneath the ice of familiar thoughts. You are deep now, under blankets of rock and frost, where the warmth of the world above feels far away. Your heartbeat becomes a sonar pulse, echoing into hidden places. You picture yourself as a tiny probe, gliding through darkness beneath a crust of ancient ice. In your mind's eye, you hover above Europa, Jupiter's bright moon, a cracked pearl orbiting in the planet's mighty shadow. Its surface is a desert of frozen ridges and smooth plains, but your attention does not linger on the shell. You press deeper, sinking slowly through miles of blue-white silence. Beneath the fractured skin, an ocean churns in pitch black. It is warmed not by sunlight, but by the invisible tug of Jupiter's gravity, a slow kneading of rock and ice. That makes heat where none should be. Here, in a place with no dawn, liquid water keeps secrets no telescope can fully see. You imagine the water, briny, restless, pressed tight between cold ice above and hot rock below. There might be vents here, like those on Earth's ocean floor, dark chimneys where minerals flow and chemicals dance, weaving fragile threads of energy into something that might live. You let yourself drift farther, imagining you are a grain of salt carried in this hidden sea. You tumble through currents, feel warmth on your crystalline face, sense minerals dissolve and swirl around you like distant galaxies of possibility. In this silent saltwater cosmos, life might cling to the smallest hope, microbes feasting on minerals, tiny creatures stirring the darkness. You do not see them, but you sense their shapes in your thoughts, drifting sacks of chemicals, ancient recipes for survival, curling in warmth that has never known the sun. Far away, spins in Saturn's orbit, smaller than Europa, but just as secretive. You picture its surface, bright as fresh snow, flawless to the eye until you notice the cracks that breathe. From those cracks geysers burst into space, plumes of salty vapor and icy grains, proof that another ocean lies hidden inside. The Cassini spacecraft once flew through those plumes, catching droplets that told stories of salts and organic molecules, whispers of chemical recipes that life might follow. You hold this thought like a snowflake on your tongue. Even in the far cold, water finds ways to stay warm and fluid, to cradle ingredients that might assemble into something living. Your imagination wanders now, tracing ripples through the solar system. You visit Ganymede, Europa's older sibling, carrying its own hidden sea beneath thick layers of ice and silicate stone. You pause at Titan, Saturn's orange moon, where seas of methane and ethane wash against icy shores, not water, but still liquid, still a solvent in the great laboratory of the cosmos. You drift farther, to Triton circling Neptune, a lonely sphere that might hide warmth beneath its thin crust. Even Pluto, so distant and ghostly, is not empty of warmth. There are hints of buried brine, kept liquid by the slow squeeze of tidal forces and the warmth left in rock and ice. All these hidden oceans remind you that water does not give up easily. It slides through cracks, pools in shadowed caves, hugs heat wherever it can find it. You picture Earth's own secret seas, the dark depths of the Mariana Trench, hydrothermal vents that blossom with improbable life, entire ecosystems that never see the sun but glow with their own strange chemistry. On Earth, where sunlight seems the source of everything living, these hidden places prove otherwise. Warmth and liquid, plus time and minerals, can spark life's story over and over. You lie in your bed, warm under blankets, while your mind floats weightless through alien oceans. You wonder if explorers of the future will send robot submarines into Europa's depths, tiny steel fish with blinking lights and sampling arms. You imagine their cameras sweeping across alien currents, capturing glimpses of something moving too quick to see clearly, but enough to know that we are not alone in the dark. You feel the hush of that moment in your bones, the stillness, when the world expands again, when a moon's cold ocean becomes an ancient cradle of warmth and breath. Your thoughts drift to what water means, a bond between hydrogen and oxygen, simple yet stubborn, willing to slip into cracks and cling to life wherever it can. You see how it pools in the shadows of Mercury's poles, where sunlight never reaches. You remember the frozen water on Mars, locked in polar caps and hidden in soil, waiting for warmth to set it free. Even comets, dusty travelers from the edges of the solar system, carry ancient ice that once fell to Earth, filling our rivers and oceans drop by drop. You float among these thoughts like a bubble under ice. You feel the cold above, the warmth below, the gentle pull of gravity kneading stone and liquid into something more than frozen silence. You sense how astronomers listen for hints, magnetic fields that twitch and bend as oceans stir beneath, ice plumes that burst into space and catch the light of passing probes. Each clue is a promise. Wherever there is water and warmth, there might be something that breathes. However faintly, your heartbeat slows as you drift deeper into this quiet universe. The black water is not empty. It is a page waiting to be written on by something small and patient. You wonder what stories live there, beneath crusts of ancient frost, under pressures you can hardly imagine. What shapes have never seen a star, yet swim through salt and mineral clouds like drifting ghosts. You listen to the ocean's hush, the slow sigh of brine against rock, the faint whisper of tides pulled by planets far above. For a moment, you picture yourself standing on Europa's surface, beneath Jupiter's vast swirl. You feel the cold beneath your boots, hear the ice creak and groan as tides shift far below. You imagine drilling down, deeper and deeper, until your fingertips break through to liquid blackness. You lower a small craft, watch its lights fade into the deep. You hold your breath, waiting for a flicker of motion, an echo of the same story that began in Earth's own oceans so long ago. You pull back from these visions, sinking back into your own warmth. The oceans in the dark stay with you, tucked behind your eyelids like a dream you can visit again. You know that somewhere, deep beneath ice and rock, salt water still whispers its promises into the emptiness. It waits, patient as time itself, for eyes to see it. for instruments to taste its minerals, for minds to imagine what might swim in the blackness. Your thoughts drift one last time to the soft heartbeat of hidden seas. You wonder if, when explorers finally break through the ice, they will find not just water, but warmth, a warmth that could shelter new stories, new beginnings. You breathe out slowly, picturing the next step, not just where water hides, but how life's ingredients gather and assemble, molecule by molecule, in places far stranger than any story yet told. Somewhere beyond the frozen shells and secret seas, another question waits. What sparks life into being, and where else might it rise, silent and unseen, in the cold embrace of the stars? You drift now in silence, in the space between extremes. Ahead, a quiet star glows, not too fierce, not too faint. A small sun that breathes golden warmth across the darkness. You are held gently in its light, not burned, not frozen. This is the Goldilocks path, the narrow lane in which life, like a hesitant flower, might begin to unfold. You imagine a planet, here round, blue whispering clouds. Maybe it spins slowly, rocking like a cradle. It might have oceans sighing against ancient rocks, or winds that hum softly through wide grasslands. Maybe it holds silence or music. Maybe something small, not yet a thought, not yet a word has stirred in its dust. Around you, the cosmos is a vast, unruly sea. Some planets race in tight orbits, their surfaces scorched dry by the raw breath of their star. Others slumber, in the cold, too distant to feel even a flicker of heat. But here, in this slender ribbon of balance, you hover. It is neither too hot nor too cold. It is just right. The scientists call this the habitable zone. But that name, you think, feels almost too sharp, too rigid for something so quiet and gentle. This isn't a boundary drawn in stone. It's a watercolor blur, a twilight band where the conditions for life might softly arrange themselves. Like dew on the edge of morning, you begin to notice how the warmth of a star shapes everything around it. A sun's brightness, its distance, its mood, they determine how far out this gentle zone must lie. For smaller, cooler stars, the zone draws in close, like a whisper against the skin. For larger, hotter ones, it drifts outward, a cautious reach into space. Even here, in this just right zone, there are challenges. Life, if it arrives, must still build its house with care, shielding itself from flares, holding on to air, learning how to drink from sunlight or oceans. But this band, this pathway, is the first welcome, it says. Here, maybe, you have a chance. You float onward, visiting imaginary worlds along the Goldilocks path. One is covered in clouds, thick as cream, its atmosphere heavy with secrets. Another is mostly sea, waves rising in slow, endless patterns under two small moons. You see another, where the ground gleams red, scattered with icy craters that catch the light like mirrors. All so different, and yet they all share the same delicate position, close enough to their star to thaw, far enough to breathe. Earth is one of them. Your own world, your home, lives here in this slender space. You think of the rivers, the trees, the birds that rest on branches just before dawn. You think of breath and sleep and the quiet hum of cities at night. All of it made possible by this orbit, this subtle path around the sun that holds Earth in a state of delicate grace. It is strange. You realize how narrow that margin is. A little closer to the sun, and the oceans might have boiled. A little farther, and ice might have locked everything in stillness. But Earth dances between extremes. It wobbles and shifts and bends, but it remains within the song, a song of warmth, a song of rain, and yet not all who walk the Goldilocks path carry life. Venus is close, a sister world, similar in size, wrapped in a golden glow. But its clouds are acid, its air thick and suffocating. Its surface burns hotter than any oven, locked in a runaway fever. Mars lies on the other edge, smaller, colder, drier. Once, perhaps, it sang with water. Now it sleeps beneath dust, holding secrets in frozen shadow. So it isn't just about distance. The path is the beginning, but the dance is complex. A planet must hold the right ingredients, must keep its atmosphere, must shield and stir and change. Still, the path matters. Without it, the rest cannot begin. It is the quiet corridor that invites a possibility. You picture this zone again, not as a circle or a ring, but as a soft glow surrounding a star, like breath on a cold morning, like the warmth of hands held near a fire. Within that glow, life might one day lean forward and listen. You drift farther now, to other stars. Thousands of them. Some are red dwarfs, small and cool, their habitable zones so close that a planet might be tugged into always showing one face, day forever on one side, night forever on the other. You imagine living there, walking in twilight forever, chasing the horizon where light and shadow meet. Other stars are bright and restless, pulsing with energy. Their zones lie far out, wide and radiant. Around them, great worlds might form or fall, and still, somewhere in that balance, another just right might emerge. Astronomers look for these zones. They scan distant stars, tracing the wobbles and shadows that hint at planets. When they find one in the gentle zone, their hearts stir. Not proof, but potential. Not life, but the stage on which life could dance. You understand now that the Goldilocks path is not a guarantee. It is a beginning, a condition, a soft space where the improbable might be possible. And that, you realize, is the dream, not certainty, but hope held steady by the laws of light and distance. You close your eyes. Around you, stars turn slowly, each with its own secret warmth. Some burn too bright, some barely flicker, but a few, just a few, shine in ways that cradle something fragile, something like breath. You are not alone in your orbit. All across the galaxy, this quiet math unfolds, the slow arithmetic of temperature and time. And in the long hush of space, there is always another chance, another orbit, another maybe, and you wonder, not with fear, but with the soft curiosity of night, what it would be like to stand on one of those worlds, to look up, to see a different sun. Maybe, in the next moment, you will find yourself moving closer to a planet that holds not only warmth, but memory, ancient rocks that once felt rain, a silence waiting to speak. What traces of life might linger in dust, what fossils might sleep beneath alien skies. The stars shimmer silently above, but you know silence isn't the same as stillness. You float in thought, riding on the edge of wonder, drifting through the cosmos in a cradle of questions. Out here, in the hush of space, you listen for a different kind of sound, not of waves or winds, but of atmospheres softly whispering. You are searching for the breath of other worlds, somewhere far beyond your quiet orbit. Telescopes reach with long glass eyes. They stare into the dark, pulling in starlight that has crossed oceans of time. Each beam is like a message folded in light, carrying secrets from planets you may never see. But even in the distance, you can feel their presence. You imagine a place where grasses sigh in the breeze, where clouds drift lazily across a sky unfamiliar to you, and you wonder, do they breathe? Breathing, you've come to understand, is more than just lungs. It's exchange, it's rhythm, it's life speaking softly through chemistry. On Earth, the air is alive. Forests inhale carbon dioxide and exhale oxygen. Microbes burrow and stir the soil with methane's whisper. Even the ocean breathes, its surface pulsing with invisible gas. Now, you are listening for that breath beyond your world. Scientists call it a biosignature, a hint, a fingerprint, a trace of something living. Not a face or a voice, not yet, but a pattern. The balance of gases that shouldn't be there unless something is stirring the mix. Oxygen is a loudspeaker in this quiet room. It reacts easily, vanishing unless constantly renewed. Too much of it in a planet's air might mean plants or microbes are at work, feeding light into the dance of molecules. Methane, too, tells its own story. On Earth, much of it bubbles up from living things. So when we find a planet with both oxygen and methane together, coexisting like unlikely friends, it makes your breath catch. Life, perhaps, is tending that flame. You imagine standing on one of these breathing worlds, your feet pressing into unfamiliar soil. The sky overhead glows in strange hues, not quite blue, not quite red. You close your eyes and inhale deeply. The air smells of minerals, perhaps, or rain, or maybe it smells like nothing at all. But the act of breathing there would be a miracle, not for your lungs, but for your mind, because to breathe a planet's air is to share in its story. Our tools are still shy and distant. They don't land or scoop or taste. They measure spectra. The colors of light split into rainbows, so fine they whisper secrets. A beam of starlight passing through a planet's atmosphere is changed, ever so slightly. Some wavelengths vanish, stolen by gases in the air. From that pattern of missing pieces, we learn what the atmosphere holds. It's a cosmic form of listening, not to sound, but to silence, to what isn't there and why. And in those gaps, we dream. Of course, not every gas is a message from life. Volcanoes breathe too. Planets, even lifeless ones, can burp and hiss and change their skies. So we must be careful, listeners, not just hearing, but understanding, looking not for a single note, but a chorus, a balance. A chemical symphony that doesn't play itself unless something alive is tuning the strings. You picture the James Webb Space Telescope hovering in its frozen halo, eavesdropping on distant suns. It watches planets as they pass in front of their stars, studying the starlight that filters through their skies. Each pass adds to the picture, a little more oxygen, a hint of water vapor, a possible curve of carbon dioxide. These are just shadows in the light, but they speak. You remember the way your breath fogs a window, just moisture, nothing more. But from that fog, someone could tell you were there, warm, breathing, alive. That is what we hope to find, not a footprint, not a signal, but a breath on the glass of the universe. And sometimes, we wonder if they're listening for us too. Earth's own breath has changed over time. For billions of years, our sky held no oxygen. Then, tiny cyanobacteria began to photosynthesize to eat light and exhale air. It took eons to fill the atmosphere. Oxygen rose, and with it, complex life. Animals came, eventually humans. And now, a new kind of breath, not just from lungs, but from factories, engines, and glowing screens. Our modern atmosphere carries the scent of civilization. If aliens looked at Earth from afar, they might wonder about that. The rising levels of carbon dioxide, the strange patterns of pollutants, the neon trails of cities blinking under cloud. Would they see it as a planet in bloom, or one struggling to breathe? As you float in thought, you begin to breathe more slowly. You imagine syncing your inhale with the pulse of a living world light years away. What if, at this very moment, another being was doing the same? Not in a body like yours, perhaps. Not with lungs or lips or lungs, but still breathing, exchanging, sensing, responding to the world around it. You imagine forests with leaves like mirrors, catching two suns at once, or oceans that glitter with floating life, breathing through alien currents, even bacteria in deep stone, exhaling gases that rise to meet the stars. Life doesn't always need to walk or speak. Sometimes it just leaves a scent behind. In this search, you are not alone. You are part of a species that listens, quietly, patiently, with instruments held out like cupped hands. And as we scan for distant signs of breath, we learn more about our own, how fragile, how rare, how vital it is to tend the balance we've inherited. Somewhere a star flickers. Around it spins a quiet planet. Its sky holds a mixture that shouldn't be there, not unless something is alive beneath it. You don't know what it is, or if it knows you. But tonight, you breathe and you wonder. And as you exhale into the stillness, your thoughts turn gently to the surfaces below, those skies to rock and dust and time. For if a world breathes, then surely it also bears the traces of its story, pressed into stone and shadow, waiting for curious hands to find. And in that dust, in those ancient layers, might be the memory of life once lived, or the quiet preparations for life yet to begin. You drift now toward a gentler region of space, where the stars no longer burn with youthful fire. Here, time feels thick, as if it gathers like fog around old stories. You slow down without choosing to, caught in the hush of twilight suns, where gravity holds memories in its arms, and starlight has softened into an amber sigh. These are elder stars, ancient companions of the galaxy. They pulse more slowly than their younger kin, swollen and heavy with the weight of their own long lives. You watch one swell into a great red orb, its color deep and sorrowful, like the last ember of a fading hearth. Its warmth still reaches out, but more like a memory than a fire. Around this star, the planets have changed. Once vibrant with weather and motion, now they are quieted. The atmospheres, thinned and brittle, have begun to slip away. You imagine once there might have been blue skies here, cloud dancers, rains. But now, the air lifts gently from the surface like morning mist, drawn slowly into space by the weakening hold of gravity and the cooling breath of the sun. You think of how suns begin, bright, full of hydrogen, fusing atoms into light. But like any fire, they consume their fuel. Over time, the balance tips. When the hydrogen in their cores dwindles, the stars swell, expanding their outer layers into red giants. Their gravity loosens, their glow changes, and their worlds must adapt or fade. One planet beneath you shows signs of what was once an ocean. Its surface is cracked and silvered, as though frozen in time. You trace old shorelines with your gaze, wonder about what things once swam here, and then, Without knowing why, you feel a tug, not from gravity, but from story. This place is not just a ruin, it is a transformation. The star, though dying, is not finished. Its outer layers ripple like petals, loosening from a flower, drifting into the void. A planetary nebula will bloom a soft cloud of gas and light, glowing for tens of thousands of years. In the middle, a white dwarf will be born, a star's seed, small, hot, and incredibly dense. Not alive, not dead, just waiting. You wonder, what does it mean for a sun to grow old? Not to vanish suddenly, but to spend centuries unwinding. There is a grace in this slowness. In the way light stretches out, its goodbye. You float closer to the dying star, and the colors change again. Not fiery orange now, but delicate violets and pale greens flickering in the haze. This is the beginning of the nebula, gases recombining in the gentle light of the white-hot core. The elements born in the star's heart, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, are spilling outward, seeding the galaxy with future possibilities, even in collapse. There is generosity. These atoms, once held tightly by fusion, now scatter into space. They will drift, gather, and become part of something else, a new star perhaps, or the dust of a comet, or even the bones of a distant life. The planet you pass now has lost much of its atmosphere, but not all. Its surface still shifts with wind, faint and sparse. You watch as dust climbs into the air and falls again like forgotten thoughts. There are no storms here anymore, only slow breezes whispering over rock. The temperature is low, but not lifeless. Perhaps life adapts. Perhaps it shelters underground or huddles near volcanic warmth. Or perhaps this world has entered its own slumber, a deep, enduring rest beneath the fading sun, and you feel something stir in yourself, a kind of wonder wrapped in stillness. Not all change is loud, not all death is final. The cosmos, you see, doesn't erase, it recycles. There are stories told in quiet dissolution. You can feel them, layered in the light, a planet's long farewell, a sun's slow exhale, the release of ancient heat into the fabric of the starscape, the ending of one chapter, and the planting of seeds for another. Now another star, smaller and cooler than the last, appears in your path. It is a white dwarf, the dense core left behind after a sun's outer shell has been cast away, no longer fusing, but still glowing. A coal at the heart of the universe's fireplace. You draw near and feel the immense gravity, like a silent heartbeat. This star, though only the size of a planet, holds mass greater than the sun. Time bends subtly around it. Light curves slightly inward. You are reminded that even something small can be powerful. That age does not mean disappearance. Sometimes it means compression, distillation, focus. The space nearby is full of drifting remnants, not debris, but ingredients. You imagine them drawn someday into new currents, swirling into molecular clouds, mixing with gas and dust from other dying stars. It is a kind of stellar compost, rich with future worlds. Here, in this stellar graveyard, you find no sadness, only quiet motion, a different kind of life, the kind that waits. You float above a frozen moon now, circling one of these fading stars. On its surface, ice gleams like polished glass. Beneath it, you sense an ocean, still liquid, warmed not by sunlight, but by the flexing of tides and the heat from within. Could life begin again here, in the dark? Could something move beneath that shell, gentle and slow, feeling the change above like a shift in dreams. You think of seeds that sleep in dry soil for decades, waiting for rain, waiting, perhaps, for warmth that may never return. And yet, they wait. The lesson of dying stars is not one of endings alone. It is a lesson of transformation. Light changes, atoms drift, planets quiet. But even in this slowing, new beginnings are laid down, slowly, without rush. You pause, held in a moment of near silence, watching a final flare lift from the surface of a red giant, one last bright ribbon spiraling out, a goodbye made of color. And as the glow fades, you wonder how many times this has happened across galaxies, across time. How many stars have sung this soft farewell? How many worlds have held on, then let go, and become something else? The universe does not cling. It releases, it reshapes. And in that endless reshaping, something astonishing is always just beginning. The stars that fade give way to dust that shines, and as you drift onward, through fields of cooled starlight and hushed orbits, another question gently forms. What might rise from the ash of stars? What hidden furnaces wait in the cold beyond? You drift now through a darkness softened by distant light, tracing the delicate loops and swirls that planets carve around their stars. It is a quiet ballet, invisible yet mighty, choreographed by gravity's constant whisper. You watch from within this silent concert hall, where there is no floor, no ceiling, only the endless stage of space, where worlds waltz in circles and ellipses, drawn by the pull of suns that burn with steady, patient fire. You let your mind hover beside one small, pale planet. It moves at just the right distance, near enough to feel warmth, far enough to keep from burning. You sense its seasons as it tilts its head slightly toward its star, then away again, weaving cycles of thaw and freeze, bloom and rest. This balance is fragile, a gentle nudge closer, and oceans would boil away. A push outward, and frost would swallow every shore. The orbit is more than a path. It is a promiser's shape that holds the possibility of soft rain, drifting clouds, green valleys that sigh beneath the weight of life. You circle this world like a moon that never lands, feeling how its speed keeps it from falling into the sun, how the sun's pull keeps it from spinning off into the dark. Two opposing wishes locked together in a perfect dance, freedom and gravity. Then you glide outward, past the safe zone where warmth can cradle life. You pass icy giants that wander in wider ellipses, their days stretched by distance and their nights lasting for years. These worlds know only the dim glow of sunlight diluted by millions of miles. Methane clouds swirl around them like heavy curtains. Deep inside, warmth still stirs remnants of formation, leftover heat hidden beneath frozen mantles. You wonder if under these thick blankets of gas and ice, strange oceans might churn liquid water kept alive by tidal pulls, internal fires, chemical reactions that defy the cold. Even here, far from the golden warmth of the sun, the dance does not stop. Moons orbit these distant giants like children spinning round a sleeping parent. Some moons hide secrets of saltwater seas, perhaps home to drifting life that never sees a sunrise. In this drifting moment, you feel the language of orbits, the circles and tilts, the pushes and pulls that shape what can exist. Mercury races close to its sun, a restless sprinter with no air to slow it down. Venus spins backward and slowly, a dancer turned by ancient collisions that left it shrouded in poisonous clouds. Mars wobbles with seasons of dust and chill. waiting for warmth it can almost remember. You realize now that life is not just about warmth, but about motion, about how a planet leans, how it spins, how it loops around its star again and again. Too much tilt, and ice grips the poles too tightly. Too little, and a planet's face may never change enough for life to try new shapes. Too wild an orbit, and heat comes in burning flashes or fades into endless frost. Somewhere in the middle lies a sweet, steady rhythm, cosmic heartbeat that life can match. You drift along the invisible strings of gravity, imagining them like silk threads stretched between star and planet, moon and planet, even planet and other planets tugging each other with tiny, stubborn pulls. Each orbit is not alone. It is part of a family, a crowd of dancers whose steps echo through space. Jupiter's heft steadies the inner worlds, shielding them from stray rocks that would shatter fragile beginnings. Saturn's rings gleam like frozen ripples, a reminder that orbits can also become art, and Earth your blue home. For a moment, small and delicate in your mind, keeps spinning just so, leaning at an angle that makes flowers bloom and rivers flow and glaciers melt into fertile plains. You feel the gravity not just as force but as a lullaby that holds you every moment of every day. The sun's pull, the moon's tug, the turning under your feet that you forget to notice all, these keep you safe in a dance so steady you can sleep through it. You imagine ancient eyes looking up, seeing patterns in the night, the wandering stars that looped across the dark, the shifting seasons that told them when to plant, when to wait. They traced these orbits long before they knew their names, felt them in the swell of tides, in the flicker of a harvest moon. They knew, without knowing, that they too were part of this great spinning. As you drift beside the planets, you see how their orbits mark the edge of possibility. A slight shift, a rogue push, and the dance changes forever. Collisions reshape. Paths, migrating giants pull smaller worlds with them, like partners swapping places on a cosmic stage. New orbits are drawn, new chances for warmth and water appear or disappear. Like dreams forgotten at dawn, you feel no rush here, only the patient steps of time. An orbit takes a year, a century, a million revolutions to reveal its secrets. Worlds drift and settle into patterns, and those patterns tell us where to look for life's gentle spark. Astronomers listen for the tiny dimming of starlight as a planet crosses its sun, watching for hints of clouds, water, vapor, carbon, maybe something more. Each measurement is a note in this quiet symphony, a clue that we, too, are part of the same dance. You drift, and you imagine yourself as a particle caught in Earth's pulsate for now, spun by gravity's careful hand. You imagine far away, explorers on other worlds, if they exist, wondering about you as you wonder about them. What orbits do they watch? What warmth do they cherish? What balance do they pray to keep? And you know that this dance continues, even when you close your eyes. The planets will keep circling, the stars will keep pulling, and the darkness will remain full of possibilities. Somewhere out there, other dancers move to rhythms we are just beginning to hear. Your mind floats to the edge of this chapter's thought, lingering in the hush that follows a finished song, waiting for the next note. In the distance, you sense the delicate breath of atmospheres, thin veils of air that can cradle life or steal it away. You wonder what stories lie within those drifting blankets of gas, waiting to be seen from the orbit of a curious eye. The silence of space wraps around you like velvet. You drift, as if on a breath held by the universe itself, looking down at a world that is not Earth, and yet could almost be. A marble wrapped in pale blues and soft whites, it turns slowly beneath your gaze. Its atmosphere glows with the light of its star, casting the clouds in gold. You feel a quiet wonder rise in your chest. This planet, this echo of home, is one of many sought, but one of few found. A mirror, perhaps, but like all mirrors, not quite the same. Astronomers call it an exoplanet, one of thousands discovered in the dark ocean beyond our solar system. This one sits in the habitable zone, the gentle belt around a star where liquid water might sleep or ripple on the surface. And so, they watch it carefully through telescopes that stretch their eyes across unimaginable distances. They gather light that has traveled for years, patient, ancient light, and break it apart into colors, like a message waiting to be read. That is how scientists listen to planets, not with sound, but with color. The way light bends and scatters in the atmosphere tells them of clouds, of gases, of possibilities. They read a planet's spectrum like a fingerprint, each curve and dip a clue. Blue might mean oceans, white, perhaps clouds. A faint green tinge could whisper of life, though it's not a promise, just a hint, a hope. You close your eyes and imagine what it would be like to stand on that faraway soil. Would it feel like earth beneath your feet, solid, familiar, humming with quiet life? Or would it be strange and sharp, with air too thick or too thin to breathe? You picture rain falling there, not water, but perhaps liquid methane or sapphire droplets, chemicals you cannot name, cascading in alien storms. Yet even as the details shift, something in the dream remains tenderly human. You look for forests, for birds, for silence broken by life. It is a longing older than science, the dream of a second Earth, a place where life might begin again, or where it might already be watching the stars from another shore. Telescopes cannot yet see the surface, only the shivers in starlight. But each shimmer is a promise, a question. Could this be another cradle, another fragile home in a sea of black? Some of these planets are tidally locked, where one side always faces the star, basking in eternal day, while the other is lost in a night that never ends. Between them lies a twilight ring, not too hot, not too cold, a dusk that circles the globe forever. You imagine standing there, at the edge of eternal dawn, feeling a quiet wind drift between fire and frost. Others spin wildly, with thick atmospheres that trap heat like a blanket pulled too tight. Their surfaces are scorched, suffocated, churned by superstorms. Their clouds are not water, but sulfur and ash, hiding their secrets under poisoned skies. Some whisper of lava lakes, others of ice, but here and there one seems gentle, calm, a world that breathes in a rhythm not too different from Earth's. You are not alone in this searching. Across the world, astronomers point their instruments toward specks of light that wobble and dim, looking for the tiny tug of a planet passing in front of its star. The Kepler and TESS missions, the James Webb Space Telescope, they are our space-bound senses, eyes wide open in the night. They teach us that planets are not rare, that stars, like Earth's sun, often have children, that many solar systems hum with orbits and rhythms, each one a cosmic dance unique in its tempo. But even among billions of planets, Earth-like ones are precious. A world with the right size, the right light, the right breath. These are jewels, not common stones. Most are too big, cloaked in thick gases. or too small, their air stripped away by radiation. Some are scorched by their sun's embrace, others are frozen in eternal silence. To find a true twin is to find a miracle written in physics. Still, we search, because to find another Earth is to glimpse ourselves from the outside, to see how life might arise in a different key. To answer, perhaps, the question we've whispered since we first looked up at the stars. Are we alone? And yet, even as you imagine another blue dot, the thought folds gently back toward your own. Earth, the original, the one you know. Seen from space, it too is just a fragile marble. Blue for its oceans, white for its weather, green and brown for the living crust. A planet that breathes, that dreams, that shelters stories, that makes poems and music, and sends robots across light years to find a reflection. No mirror can replace the original, and in searching the skies, we are reminded how lucky we are. Earth has held life for billions of years, a whisper sustained through extinction and change. Its balance is delicate, its beauty immense. The more we look outward, the more we must learn to care inward. The act of searching becomes a kind of reverence. You remember that even Earth's twin would not be Earth. Its trees, if they grow, would be strange. Its gravity might press you differently. Its stars might rise and fall in a foreign sky. But the wonder would be the same. The quiet awe of standing on another shore, knowing the cosmos is deeper than you imagined and more generous, and perhaps one day we will visit, or send messages drifting on beams of light. Perhaps someone will answer, or perhaps the silence will speak its own truth, that we are rare, not alone, but precious nonetheless. Tonight, though you remain here, wrapped in the soft gravity of home, the stars are out. The earth turns slowly beneath you, and in its turning, it shines, not because it is the only one, but because it is yours, and somewhere out there, another world turns to, turning in silence, turning in light, holding its own secrets, waiting to be seen, perhaps. In the darkness between stars, a voice is waiting to be heard. You lie on your back, the weight of blankets pressing you gently to earth while your thoughts lift free. Lighter than dust motes caught in a sunbeam, your breath settles into a slow tide, in and out, and with each quiet rise, you feel the edges of your mind loosen, as if your skull has become a glass dome open to the night. The stars pour in like whispers. You let them drift through you, tiny cold seeds of curiosity. Your journey tonight begins with a question older than your species, older than the oldest campfire stories ever told under flickering constellations. Are you alone? The question hums inside you like a soft chord, a vibration that travels through the pillow, into your bones, into the deep places of your chest. You imagine your body as a small satellite, sending out a signal as you breathe. Somewhere far away, might another sleeper send an echo back. You picture them, a being you have never seen, whose eyes might not be eyes at all, who might drift in oceans of methane, or perch on crystalline cliffs beneath a scarlet sun. You picture them pausing in their own night, turning toward some far star that pulses a pale message across the darkness. The signal might be only radiostatic to you, but to them, perhaps it is the heartbeat of a friend. Scientists spend lifetimes listening for these distant neighbors. Vast dishes of metal curve up at the sky like silver flowers thirsting for the faintest droplets of sound. They catch whispers from the past, signals that have sailed for decades, centuries, longer than you have drawn breath. Every so often, a curious burst of static arrives. The data is sifted like fine sand, each particle of noise examined for patterns. Is it just the universe breathing its random sighs? Or is it language, folded and coded into beams of light? Follow these beams now, in your mind. They leap from Earth's antennas, slip past our blue atmosphere, skim the orbits of wandering comets, brush the cold cheeks of asteroids that drift unclaimed. Each signal carries a simple promise. We are here. A soft greeting that crosses gulfs so vast your heart aches to imagine the silence that lies between. And yet, silence is never truly empty. Between the static, between the waves, there is possibility. The same way the space between your heartbeat and your breath holds a whole ocean of life. You drift into this ocean now, a place where scientists dream with equations and telescopes, where artists sketch imagined continents on invisible planets. Your mind touches Mars first, the familiar red desert that once held rivers under a thicker sky. Perhaps it was never home to neighbors who built cities or crafted songs. But maybe, deep in its ancient dust, microbes once clustered like tiny seeds, waiting for warmth. You drift past Mars and turn to Europa, Jupiter's ice-cloaked moon. Beneath its frozen crust, a secret ocean moves, warmed by hidden tides. Maybe something swims there now, slow shapes in the black water, guided by senses that have never known sunlight. You drift on, outward to Titan, Saturn's giant child. Wrapped in orange haze, lakes of methane ripple in its cold valleys, and the air carries chemicals that might someday stitch themselves into something more than molecules. Perhaps something that stirs, breathes, hungers for starlight the way you do. Beyond these familiar worlds, your imagination leaps further, guided by the eyes of powerful telescopes. These mechanical dreamers search for tiny winks of shadow when an unseen planet crosses in front of its sun. They measure the starlight for secrets, for signs of oxygen, water, or carbon, the building blocks of breath and bone. Sometimes they find a planet just the right distance from its star, not too hot, not too cold, a Goldilocks world. Maybe on one of these worlds, trees catch a wind you will never feel. Maybe something there looks up and wonders about you. Scientists send messages to not just passive ears listening, but hopeful voices calling into the dark. Golden records spin aboard old probes, carrying whispers of our songs, our laughter, the pulse of a human heartbeat, the sound of waves and birds and greetings in many tongues. These records drift through interstellar space now, carried by the Voyager probes that slip farther every year. Tiny bottles in a cosmic ocean, hoping to wash up on an alien shore. Sometimes you imagine what it would be like to receive a message back, to stand beneath the sky and know that somewhere, on a world you can't yet reach, someone has answered. Perhaps it would come as a flicker of light, a pattern that repeats, a code that no rock or star could shape by accident. Imagine the hush that would spread across Earth, millions of people pausing, holding their breath, united by a single whisper from the stars. You are not alone tonight. You cradle that possibility like a stone worn smooth by centuries of wishing. Hands, you understand that to look up at the night is to be part of a lineage that stretches back to the first humans, who gazed at the glittering sky with questions burning in their chests. You know that your dreams of distant neighbors are woven into the same fabric as your own heartbeat. Outside your window, the stars remain silent, or perhaps they speak so softly that it takes generations to hear. And maybe that is enough. To listen, to wonder, to send your own soft signal every time you let your mind drift beyond the clouds. Your breath becomes that signal now. Your thoughts a beacon that travels far beyond your bed, past rooftops and trees and mountains, past planets and moons, slipping through the black velvet of the void. Your body rests, but your mind drifts like a satellite, passing strange suns and frozen rings of ice. You glide beside comets that carry secrets older than Earth itself. You hover above distant oceans that may yet cradle living shapes. And even though your eyes are closed, they remain open in a different way, wide to the chance that the universe is not empty, but full of small, warm lights like yours, flickering in the dark, waiting to be seen. You do not know when, or how, or if an answer will ever arrive. But you know the asking matters. The signal itself is a kind of home, an invitation, a promise that somewhere out in the hush, dreams like yours drift and wait to be found. Your breath slows again, matching the patient pulse of stars. Tomorrow, telescopes will wake and sweep the sky. Tomorrow, engineers will build antennas taller than trees, wider than valleys, hungry for faint voices from impossible distances. But tonight, you drift deeper into sleep, carrying with you this quiet knowing. Your questions are seeds scattered across a vast field of stars. Some may take root where you will never see, and some may bloom in the thoughts of neighbors you have not yet met. So you lie still, your mind crossing the dark between worlds, listening, dreaming, and always asking, wondering where your next hello might find a home. You lie still beneath a blanket of quiet darkness, and in this hush, the universe unfolds around you like a slow exhale. Above your closed eyes, light travels thin, tireless messengers slipping through the endless black. You listen, in your own way, to the language of light, and find that it speaks not just in brilliance, but in the story of time carried on each photon's back. A single beam leaves a star, brushing past dust and drifting stones, crossing the chill emptiness for years that stretch beyond your waking comprehension. This beam, like a soft finger, touches your mind tonight, and you feel its age. You learn that when you gaze up at a star, you see not what it is, but what it was. Each twinkle is an echo of an ancient moment, a frozen note in a cosmic melody that began long before your breath stirred the air of this small world. Light years, what a simple word for something so vast. 1 year of light's journey, 1 year of unstoppable motion at the fastest speed the universe allows. Nearly 10 trillion kilometers in a single heartbeat of starlight. So when you trace Orion's belt, when you follow the curve of the Milky Way, you are really reading a scroll of history, stories inked in photons. Stars you see now may be gone. Some may have bloomed and burned to ashes while their light still sails on, carrying the last evidence of their shining lives to your gentle eyes. You drift deeper into this truth, feeling how distance folds into time. Your thoughts float outward, past the moon's calm face and Mars's red dust, beyond Jupiter's swirling storms, past the icy orbit of Neptune, where the sun is only a pale coin. You slip into the sea between stars. Here, light years measure not just how far, but how long. The nearest star, Proxima Centauri, whispers to you from 4 light years away. The moment you see it is really 4 years old. You listen, imagining this small red sun's glow passing unseen through the black, ferrying messages no one else may ever hear. Deeper still, you reach for Sirius, its brilliance, a kind of beacon in the night. 8 light years for its song to arrive. You think of your own life. What has changed in 8 years? What has stayed? Time stretches and folds like silk around your drifting mind, and you sense that light has always been the bridge between now and then, here and there, you and everything else that breathes or burns among the stars. Somewhere far beyond, the Andromeda Galaxy waits with its ancient chorus, 2.5 million light-years away. The faint haze you might glimpse on a clear night is the sum of countless suns, each sending rays that left their home before your species first painted on cave walls. You see them now, and in seeing, you gather up a fragment of the past. Hold it softly in your mind like a memory returned from a dream. And when you consider how this light crosses time, you wonder what stories your own world's light might tell. Radio signals slip outward from Earth in expanding shells. The earliest broadcasts, whispers of music, voices, news of wars, and celebrations travel ever outward, a testament to your species' brief, noisy emergence. Somewhere, decades away in light years, those first signals may one day brush against another mind that looks up in its own darkness, asking the same quiet questions you do now. You lie still and imagine your heartbeat as a small measure, your pulse syncing with the flicker of stars. In this moment, you are both here and impossibly far away. Light and time weave you into the fabric of galaxies. You sense how fragile and fleeting each moment is, yet how stubbornly it persists in the silent streams of photons that cross the void. If you could ride a beam of light, what would you see? Would you pass frozen planets, lost comets adrift in lonely orbits, witness the birth of stars in clouds of glittering gas? Would you dare to glimpse the edge of what light can touch? The places where darkness reigns so completely that not even the swiftest ray can flee. There are places, you realize, where light falls into black holes, caught forever in a hunger so perfect that even time bends inward. What echoes come from there? What whispers slip between the edges of known and unknowable? Your thoughts brush this riddle like fingers on glass, curious yet calm. Not everything needs an answer tonight. Some questions are a lullaby in themselves. And as you drift, the light that touches your mind reminds you that every look outward is also a look backward. Each star is a window into what was, and every breath you take under this sky ties you to a lineage of dreamers who looked up and wondered. This is your inheritance, the gift of time seen through distance, the hush of ancient photons brushing your eyelids as sleep approaches in your dreams. Perhaps you will ride a light year like a gentle river, drifting on waves of radiance through centuries, millennia, eons. Perhaps you will slip between the beams, gathering the secrets they carry, feeling how the universe holds its stories in plain sight, if only you drift softly enough to see them. And when you wake, the light will still be there, a quiet companion that never truly leaves, only changes shape, always on its way, always bearing whispers of what once was and what might yet be. In this hush, you feel time breathe, and you wonder, as sleep draws near, what waits beyond the farthest beam you can see, what dark rivers of silence cradle the next secret waiting to shine. In the gentle hush between waking and dreaming, you drift toward vastness. Here, everything slows. You are no longer tethered to the tiny world beneath your feet, but rising, drawn into the deep reaches of space by something unseen. It is not light that calls you, nor sound, but gravity, soft, immense, and patient, the pull of giants. You float near Jupiter now, not close enough to be caught in its storms, but close enough to feel the weight of its presence. It does not roar, but it hums, a low, endless hum, like the breath of an ancient creature asleep in the black sea of space. You do not see it at first, only the way starlight bends around it, how tiny moons dance in looping spirals. Then it reveals itself, a striped sphere so vast you could fit 1,000 Earths inside, its surface churning with storms the size of countenance. The great red spot stares back. It is not an eye, but it watches a storm older than all of human memory, spinning and spinning with no end in sight. You feel the quiet fury of it, but from here it cannot reach you. It is a storm without a voice, without violence, simply a pattern repeating over centuries. Time folds differently here. You wonder how many other storms have come and gone while this one stayed. Jupiter is not alone. It is circled by a court of moons, dozens of them, each with its own rhythm, its own dance. Some are scarred and cratered, like old bones left in the dust. Some are icy, glinting with hidden oceans beneath their frozen shells. And one, Europa, makes you pause. There is a stillness to it, a fragile silence. You imagine that beneath its crust something stirs, not chaos, not fear, but the slow churn of possibility. These moons do not simply orbit. They are held in a kind of conversation with Jupiter, pulled and stretched, warmed and cooled, shaped by tides that do not follow the rules of ocean or air. Gravity speaks in waves here, moving through ice and rock like breath moves through lungs. Europa flexes and bends. Beneath its icy shell, the heat of movement may give rise to warmth enough for life. And yet, Jupiter's gravity reaches farther still. It does not only shape its moons, it shapes the very architecture of the solar system. It is a shepherd and a shield. Long ago, when everything was dust and fire, it may have swept clean the path where Earth would form, protecting it from too many intruders. Even now, it nudges asteroids, stirs comets, tugs on Saturn and even Mars. Its influence is subtle but persistent, like a parent guiding from afar, never speaking, always shaping. You drift outward, following the current of this pull, until Saturn appears fainter, cooler and more distant, but no less beautiful. Its rings shimmer like frozen breath, a delicate structure made of countless fragments, ice, rock, time. They are not solid, not a wall, but a story told in circles. Each piece of the ring system turns in its own orbit, like dancers in a slow, luminous waltz. And yet, these rings are not eternal. They are transient, like so much in the universe, magnificent but fading. Even now, Saturn's rings are slipping away, falling inward, dissolving over eons. One day, they may vanish altogether, but for now, they remain a breathtaking crown on a planet that pulls at everything around it. You are beginning to understand that these giants, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, are not just planets, they are sculptors. They bend the paths of smaller bodies, they cradle icy comets in distant orbits. They sweep clean the void so fragile worlds might grow. They are not warm, not gentle, not nurturing in any human sense. But without them, Earth might never have stood a chance. You float farther now, toward the edge of the solar system, where Neptune spins slow and distant. Its winds are the fastest of any planet, though from here you cannot feel them. You only see the soft blue hue, the faint gleam of methane clouds, and the silent orbit of Triton, a moon that moves in defiance, backward against the flow. A captured wanderer, held close by the pull of a giant, and still beyond, past Neptune's cold dominion, lie the scattered remnants, dwarf planets, icy bodies, strange orbits, Pluto, Eris, Sedna. Their paths are eccentric, tilted, elongated. But even here, the giants have left their mark. Their gravity echoes outwards, long past where light warms or color remains. Nothing is untouched. You begin to feel the scale of it all. These massive worlds, though distant and rarely spoken of in your daily life, are part of a deep, invisible network. Their gravity is like threads binding together the solar system in a quiet web. They hold space for smaller planets, for the rocks and ice, even for dreams. Their silence is not emptiness, it is presence. You imagine yourself as one of the small ones, like a moon or a piece of drifting ice, gently steered by invisible hands. Not controlled, but kept safe. Not trapped, but guided. Even your own planet is not alone in its path. Earth's orbit, its seasons, even the rains that fall on your skin, all are affected, ever so slightly, by the push and pull of these distant giants. You breathe slowly now, not because you're tired, but because the rhythm of space has settled into you. You can feel the heartbeat of the solar system, not in sound or pulse, but in pattern, a looping, graceful balance, a cosmic choreography. Jupiter turns, Saturn glows, Neptune watches from afar. None of them speak, yet each of them holds space for others to exist. And in that quiet allowance, there is something sacred, not divine, but dignified, as you drift once more toward the warmth of the inner system. The giants grow smaller behind you, but their gravity still holds. You are never entirely free of them, and you don't want to be. Their presence is reassuring. They remind you that even in silence, great things can shape the world. You follow their influence inward now, toward the fragile places where gravity gives way to sunlight, and where tiny, rocky planets spin like seeds in a garden carefully tended. And somewhere, just ahead, another thought stirs. How does light reach these worlds? And where does it go when it leaves? Two suns rise before you, spilling pale gold and copper blush across a world that never knows a single shade of day. You stand at the edge of a plain that has no name yet, on a planet that spins softly in the embrace of not one sun, but two, a binary pair locked in a slow, endless dance. Their light twines together like silk threads pulled through sky. You can almost hear it, a faint chord, a hum in your bones, a promise that the universe does not settle for solitude alone. Above you, the stars linger even as dawn breaks twice. One star might slip behind a drifting cloud of ice and dust, while its partner pulls you forward, keeping the land warm, the shadows layered in subtle echoes. Here, no shadow falls the same way twice. They blur and stretch, flicker and fade, painted by more than one source of light. In these gentle, overlapping beams, you understand how variety keeps the darkness at bay. Binary stars are not rare guests in the cosmos. They are a favored pattern. Over half the stars you see glittering in your night sky belong to such duets, some locked tightly together, some drifting so far apart they forget each other for centuries before gravity calls them home again. Some whirl around each other in days, tracing tight loops like dancers pressed close in a crowded hall. Others wander on distant paths, wide arcs that take thousands of years to close. You walk across this imagined land with soft steps, feeling the tug of gravity not just from the world beneath you, but from the stars themselves. Their pull shapes, everything, the sky's color, the length of days, the rhythm of seasons that blend and blur under multiple suns. Some days are never truly dark. Twilight lingers, a gentle reminder that these stars refuse to sleep alone. You picture a village here, roofs turned to catch warmth from both suns, crops that know no single season but shift with the crossing of stellar paths. Sometimes a third sun drifts close, slipping into this dance like a lone violin joining a duet. Triple star systems exist too, weaving more complicated music into the fabric of night. You imagine how a third sunrise might look, a small jewel rising shyly behind two blazing suns, coloring the sky with unexpected shades. The people who might live here would speak of sunlit nights, of days when all three companions share their fire, of shadows cast in directions no single sun could ever make. In these tangled orbits, planets find precarious homes. Some circle only, one star, flirting briefly with its partner's light when their paths align. Others wind around both suns, tracing a figure eight in the emptiness, balancing between pulls that never truly rest. It's a delicate tension, a cosmic tightrope that can snap with a nudge or a whisper of time. But sometimes, improbably, the balance holds for millions of years. Enough time, perhaps, for oceans to gather warmth, for winds to swirl, and for life to wonder what it means to wake beneath more than one rising sun. You pause near a lake that mirrors both stars, one reflection, shimmering gold, the other red. The ripples scatter both images, break them into fragments that dance at your feet. You bend down and imagine a creature stirring beneath that surface, blinking wide eyes at the brightness that never truly leaves. How would its sleep cycle twist around the rhythm of two dawns? Would it dream in overlapping hues, resting in the brief hours when both suns dip below the horizon at once? Or would it never sleep at all, its world always brushed by some glimmer of light? Astronomers once wondered if planets could survive these complicated embraces. Too much tugging, they thought, and orbits would twist to ruin worlds, flung out into deep space, too cold to harbor breath or memory. But time and curiosity have shown otherwise. We have found such worlds. Gas giants orbiting twin stars, rocky planets hugging close to binary pairs, shadows that fall in braided strands. Some of these worlds perch inside the Goldilocks zone, that tender ring where warmth and distance balance just so, where liquid water could pool in craters and streams could carve soft songs into rock so you drift deeper into this music of many suns, letting it wash over you like notes drifting through an open window. The stars become instruments, bright brass, warm strings, distant drums. You wonder what songs life might hum here, what shapes it would take to greet multiple dawns. Would trees grow leaves that fold in layers to shelter from double heat? Would flowers bloom in careful shifts, turning toward whichever sun shares its warmth? Would eyes evolve to sort this tangled brilliance into something gentle enough to see? You lie back on a slope of grass warmed by twin rays, feeling how your own thoughts orbit around the idea that loneliness is not the universe's only plan. Some stars love solitude, blazing fiercely alone until they flicker out in quiet ends. But many crave company, a gravitational embrace that loops them into patterns more complex than any single fireball could imagine. The sky above you holds these secrets like a choir humming in the dark. You only need to listen for the echoes that tell you more is possible in the shifting warmth. Your mind drifts to distant civilizations that might watch these same suns, cross their skies. How would they tell stories of time? Would their calendars braid together days ruled by each sun's rise and fall? Would they build myths around the moments when all three stars align, or weep during eclipses when one hides, the other in sudden shadow? The language of their seasons would be richer, tangled like roots beneath a forest floor. As you stand again, the sky shifts once more. One sun dips lower, sliding toward the horizon while its partner still stands high. The shadows bend around. You like whispers of a secret you almost understand. Somewhere beyond this imagined world, new eyes might gaze up at skies layered with light. Eyes that wonder at the balance that lets warmth linger where it should have fled. In this gentle drift, between stars, you feel how possibility swells in places where we once thought nothing could survive. Binary stars, triple stars. The universe is a patient composer, threading chaos into harmony. You step lightly from one patch of warm ground to another, your shadow doubling, then tripling as the light shifts. Each footfall reminds you that stability can grow out of the most tangled steps, that even multiple pulls can cradle something tender enough to live. You close your eyes and listen for the hush of distant planets, circling 2 or 3 suns. You feel how your own heartbeat matches the quiet looping of orbits. The music of balance and pull, the dance that never truly ends. Somewhere under multiple dawns, warmth persists against the odds. You breathe out, letting the thought linger. In the back of your mind, the wonder that some shadows need many lights to be born. And as you drift on to the next question, you wonder what lies at the edges of this dance, where the warmth fades and darkness gathers its secrets. Once more you settle into the gentle hush of your thoughts. Floating among the hush of stars, your senses stretching wide to catch something more than starlight. The night above you is a cathedral of hidden messages, countless pinpricks of light masking murmurs that slip past the eyes. You rest in this in-between space where human ears fail but instruments awaken, humming along the edges of the electromagnetic sea. Somewhere, far from your warm bed, vast dishes of metal curve upward like cupped hands, patient and wide, waiting for the faintest breath of company. They listen through the dark, through the noise, through the static hiss that never sleeps. Each signal that touches these mirrors is a ghost of something that once was. A star pulsing, a quasar feeding, a galaxy spinning its ancient wheels. You imagine yourself becoming one with those dishes, your mind a metal ear tilted to the cosmic. Static, hoping the static says something back. A scientist in a distant control room adjusts a dial, so precise it hums with purpose. He waits, she waits, they wait, countless pairs of eyes blinking at screens, tracking waves that have traveled millions of years to arrive here, now, where you lie listening to. You think of this, the patient vigil that never ends. How many generations have asked, who is out there, and bent their tools toward the black sea above. These radio telescopes do not shout. They simply listen, becoming part of the silence they crave to understand. Some signals arrive with a steady, predictable beat, the heartbeat of a pulsar spinning in the deep, regular as breath. Others come in strange bursts, bright and short-lived, like a match struck in a storm. And sometimes, very rarely, there is something that does not quite fit. A pattern that loops back on itself, that flares and dims in ways no simple rock or sun should. You feel your mind stretch to wrap around these riddles. Perhaps these are the footsteps of neighbors who have learned to speak in frequencies, who scatter seeds of greeting through the endless garden of stars. Or maybe they are the size of matter folding and unfolding itself, playing tricks on those who hope too hard. You smile into your pillow, because, in this realm, both may be true at once. Your thoughts drift to the first great ears. Humankind built the giant radio dishes in places far from cities, where no signal of Earth can confuse. The signals of the sky. You picture them, enormous metal petals blooming under constellations, catching the drizzle of old light and older sound. Here, the faintest crackle becomes a treasure. A tiny blip among the static might hold a message sent before your ancestors, learned to shape stone into stories. Every now and then, you remember the famous wow signal, a single, strong burst that roared from the radio silence for 72 seconds and never returned. Astronomers leaned in, held their breath, scribbled an exclamation beside the data. Decades passed, and no one has heard its echo again. Was it a hello? Or just the universe reminding you that chance and chaos sometimes mimic conversation? In your mind's eye, you drift beside these watchers of the void. You see them leaning back in office chairs at 3 in the morning, headphones on, coffee cold. The hum of computers surrounds them, a quiet lullaby for the restless. Some whisper with colleagues about the odds, some dream with eyes wide open, some doze beside screens that flicker with dancing numbers. The soft heartbeat of the search. You breathe out and picture the sky as a great ocean. Each radio wave, a ripple moving out from unseen shores. In this sea, planets spin, comets sail. Asteroids chatter as they tumble. Some waves come from stars dying in fireworks of energy. Others come from black holes, which devour light yet whisper secrets through jets of radiation. You float among them, this flotilla of signals, letting them pass through your thoughts like slow rain. There is comfort in knowing that even silence speaks. The hush between pulses, the gaps between bursts, the emptiness between frequencies, they hold lessons, too. Astronomers read the silence like monks read blank parchment, patient for any mark, any sign that might appear if only they stay still enough. Long enough do you think of the people who have dedicated whole lives to listening. You imagine an old scientist, hair like silver threads, adjusting a dial one last time before sleep. She knows the odds are vast, yet she believes in the gentle promise that listening is never wasted. If no one answers, the act remains. The waiting, the wondering of our sense of home, outside, far beyond your roof, and the quiet heartbeat of your room. Radio waves flow past Earth without pause. Some escape forever, threading between galaxies. Some catch on our metal ears and leave behind questions, traces, hints that ignite the night thoughts of curious minds. You are one of them now, a soft receptor for the music of the void. Somewhere, perhaps, a distant world leans its own ears outward. Maybe a young being sits in a darkened room, their eyes closed, their thoughts adrift in static and starlight. Maybe they, too, wander about the pale blue dot that hums faintly across the black. Maybe your songs, television broadcasts, radar pings, whispers of technology slip through their clouds and surprise them. Perhaps they lean closer, smile, and imagine you smiling back. In this long exchange of echoes, time folds. Your present becomes someone else's distant past, just as your telescopes cradle signals from ages when Earth was still young and quiet. Everything you know is part of this layered conversation, stitched together with patience and belief. You listen, then, not just for an answer, but for the thrill of the question itself. The hush between pulses holds a promise. The more you listen, the larger the universe becomes, not in distance, but in possibility. You find peace in this simple truth, that listening is an act of hope, of faith that you are not alone, that somewhere, some echo waits to find its way home. And if tonight brings only silence, you accept it like a soft blanket, a sign that the story continues, that the static hums with secrets yet to arrive. Your mind quiets in this wide place. You're breathing a gentle tide in tune with the unseen waves passing overhead. You promise yourself to keep listening, to rest with your senses open, to lean into the quiet as though it were a conversation still unfolding. Somewhere beyond these walls, other ears turn skyward too, other hearts wander, other eyes dream of distant signals. You feel your thoughts drift outward, carried by the same frequencies you hope to catch, becoming part of the long, slow song that binds all curious minds together. In the hush, you wonder, if an answer comes tomorrow, will you be ready to hear it? Or will you find that the waiting itself is the greater gift, a gift that carries you gently toward the next quiet question you have yet to ask? You lie in your bed, but your mind floats far beyond the walls of your room. The hush of night wraps around you like a soft blanket, and your thoughts drift upward, slipping through the ceiling, the rooftop, and the thin atmosphere that separates your breathing lungs from the breathing universe. You return to Earth now, after drifting among asteroids and watching ancient rocks dance in silent spirals. Yet the sky above you is not a border. It is an invitation, stitched with stars, threads of light crossing the black fabric of space. Long ago, when your ancestors first looked up, they had no glass to see deeper than their eyes would allow. They saw bright points, steady or flickering, and told stories to keep the dark at bay. Campfires mirrored the constellations, tiny flames echoing distant suns. Now, you carry in your chest a new kind of campfire, a quiet, burning curiosity that asks not just what those lights are, but what they might become. Telescopes rise like modern campfires, gathering light, pulling the secrets of the cosmos closer, feeding your endless hunger to know. You imagine one of these telescopes, perched high on a lonely mountain. It waits for the sun to set, for the atmosphere to calm, for the stars to reveal themselves like shy guests at a midnight gathering. A dome cracks open, metal ribs unfold, and a great eye blinks awake. It does not see in the way your eyes do. It gathers light that has traveled for millions, sometimes billions, of years. Each photon a message, each image a whisper from a time before humans knew how to listen. In the silence of your mind, you stand inside this dome. You watch the great mirror turn, adjust, find its mark among the scattered jewels above. The telescope hums in gentle, precise motion. It needs no sleep. It works while you dream. You feel a small kinship with this machine. Both of you look up. In wonder, both of you gather pieces of the unknown. You wonder if the telescope dreams to dreams in wavelengths, in spectrums, in glimmers of unseen worlds. You follow a beam of starlight as it slides down the barrel of this telescope, bouncing gently off polished mirrors, guided to a camera or a sensor that records its secrets. The light carries stories of hydrogen and helium, of ancient collisions and newborn suns. Some light has passed through distant atmospheres, brushed against alien clouds, touched the cold dust of forming planets. You hold this knowledge tenderly. These fragile hints are our first handshakes with other worlds. Back in your bed, your eyes close, but your thoughts remain open. Roaming observatories, on mountain peaks and orbiting above the swirl of Earth's weather. You drift to the Hubble Space Telescope, that old and tireless traveler spinning high above, peering through the darkness with a clarity impossible from the ground. It has shown you spirals of galaxies, the bones of cosmic storms, the faint glow of planets circling faraway suns. With every image it sends back, your world grows larger. Your small home feels both smaller and more precious. And now, New eyes are rising to join Hubble's gaze. The James Webb Space Telescope drifts deeper into the darkness, unfolding gold mirrors like a blooming flower turned toward the ancient light. Its gaze is tuned to warmth, to the subtle glow of distant birthplaces. It sees through dust clouds that once hid the tender beginnings of stars. You think of it like an astronomer's lantern, lifting veils, showing how matter stirs itself into brilliance. Webb's mirrors reflect not just light, but your need to understand where you came from, where you might go. With these tools, you bring the stars home, piece by piece. A map here, a spectrum there, a puzzle slowly forming. You sit with this puzzle in your lap, its pieces scattered like the pebbles of a riverbed. You trace the lines between them, connections glowing softly in your thoughts. It is not just science. It is a conversation, a promise that the sky will never fully turn its back on you. You picture children born tomorrow, who will hold sharper eyes than yours. They will stand before new telescopes, perhaps ones perched on the far side of the moon, shielded from Earth's restless signals. Maybe they will build observatories floating free among the asteroids you visited. These children will peer at exoplanets' worlds circling other suns. They will study the shadows of alien moons, the subtle dances of atmospheres that might cradle strange oceans and stranger life. You wonder what stories they will tell around their campfires when they look up. Your breathing slows. You imagine Earth itself as a telescope, an entire species acting as a single curious eye. With each new invention, your collective vision sharpens. You learn to bend radio waves, to capture invisible X-rays, to gather the ghostly neutrinos slipping through stone and water. You hold pieces of the universe's story in your laboratories, your satellites, your data streams. Each bit of information a small light in the dark. Together they form a constellation of knowing, a map back to the stars that made you. Sometimes the sky appears empty, a quiet canvas brushed only with pinpricks of white. But you know now that space is not empty. It is alive with particles, with signals, with relic light from the first moments after time itself began. You listen for the faint echo of the Big Bang, the leftover warmth of creation. You follow the ripples of gravity as black holes collide, sending shivers through the fabric of everything. These are not just facts. They are lullabies for a species learning to see itself in the stars. And so you lie here, still on Earth but never bound to it. Your room becomes a tiny observatory. The ceiling above you might as well be glass. You hold an entire sky within. Your mind nebulae blooming like cosmic flowers, galaxies spinning like slow dancers, asteroids drifting like forgotten seeds. Each night you gather a little more light, a little more understanding. You tuck it away like a dream you do not want to forget. You wonder if, somewhere out there, other eyes look back. Perhaps other beings build their own telescopes, stare into the same black sea, wondering if someone like you waits on the other shore. Maybe they, too, bring the stars home each night, placing them gently into stories and songs. This thought comforts you, a reminder that your loneliness under this vast sky is only an illusion. You are connected, stitched to every light that shines outside your window. The world turns softly on its axis. Dawn will come, and with it, the telescopes will rest while the sun washes the stars away. But you will carry their secrets within you, folded into your thoughts like letters yet to be opened. You drift towards sleep, your breathing deep and calm, your mind alight with distant fires. Tomorrow the sky will call you again. Another question will rise, Another answer will beckon from the far edge of knowing. You will wake ready to listen, ready to build new eyes, new ears for the darkness. You will stand on this small rock and reach, always reach, for what waits beyond, tonight. You close your eyes, but you do not shut them to the stars. You bring them home with you, a silent promise that this journey never truly ends. Somewhere far ahead, another chapter waits, a soft question whispered by the universe, asking if you are ready to dream even deeper. Somewhere in that quiet question, you sense the shape of what comes next. A new frontier, waiting for your next dream to open it wide.